So if you're looking for a way to build a really cheap and simple pole barn, that's exactly what I'm going to do. It's going to be very cheap for me. I spent less than $300 so far, and I should be able to build the entire roof out of that. I already have my string set up there. I already leveled this line, and I used my string level on it that I left on there by accident. And I have a Sharpie line that goes all the way along these posts. So I know I have a perfectly straight line here, and on the other line of posts, I did exactly the same thing. I don't really care about what height they're actually at, as long as one is a little bit higher than the other. This one should be about 6 inches higher than the other side, but I don't really care. As long as the slope, it doesn't really matter. So I have a line there that's level this way, and I have a line there that's level this way, and I parallel them this way, so they should be pretty much in 2 straight lines. And as long as one is lower than the other one, the roof's going to drain, and it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to figure out what my rafter needs to look like once I get my girders up. We're going to cut the tops off with the Sawzall, and then we're going to cut the notches while we're there, because they got to have notches to hold the girder piece, or whatever you want to call it. What would it be? Sawzall's on the other side. This right here, best blade in the world, Diablo 3 TPI carbide. If you're doing anything that you know you're not going to hit a nail, this thing's a beast. So we're just going to eyeball square, because there's nothing to square off of on a post like this, obviously. Rock hard. I'm just going to be more or less paralleling it with the rest of the building. 3 inches down, leave 2.5 inches up. That'll give me more space in my rafters to not hit the post. And nothing will fall down. Hopefully. That was obviously pretty boring, and I'm just going to do that 7 more times, so I don't really think I need to bring you along for that. I'll be back when I'm putting the girders up, or whatever you want to call them. No idea. So I just got 4 of the notches done. That's 1/2 is done. It was actually much faster than I thought it was going to be. So now we're going to do the other side, but I don't think I actually mentioned why I'm building this pole barn at all. These tractor attachments end up on this concrete pad quite a bit, so we're just going to not fight it anymore and build a building over them instead of trying to keep them in that pole barn, which is kind of, the other one just getting used for a lot of other things, so it's kind of nice to have something else for this. Obviously I wanted this to be a how-to video, but for this to be a good how-to video, I kind of need to show you how the posts are set in the ground, because that's pretty important, and this is not going to be a good one. But we're going to address that now by, I'm just going to tell you what I did. It's not very complicated. With rustic posts like this, there is no plumb, because you can't plumb them. You can get the top and the bottom approximately where they want to be. So what you want to do is run a string along the bottom where you want one edge of your building to be, and put all your posts lined up with that string on the bottom, so that way you know the bottom's where it's supposed to be. And then when you get them set, run a string along the top, so you know, and these are all moved around now, but they were in a parallel line, so you know the top is straight and the bottom's straight. And then when you come to the other side, you're going to do the same thing and measure off of your string over as far as you want the bottom to be over. Straight on the bottom on both sides, straight on the top on both sides, parallel the top. Then you can do what I'm doing right now, which is cutting them all off at the right height and cutting my notches. I think everybody knows how to dig a hole, so that's basically my layout. Just use strings, because strings are always straight. These are 2x6s. 2x6 8-foot span holding up a roof. You might think that's really weak, and it does sound kind of weak even to me. It might not be code. I don't know if this is a farm structure, so that doesn't matter as long as it actually works. But that pole barn right there is 2x6s on a, I think, 11 or 10-foot span at least. Some of those are even wider. And it's been there for, I don't know, 20, 30 years. The only difference is that one has 2x6s next to each other on both sides of the post. But fun fact, doubling up on the same width doesn't really give you that much more strength. It is not twice as strong to have 2 2x6s. If you made a 2x8, then it probably would be twice as strong. But just adding 2, it really doesn't help that much as far as load going down. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure it really doesn't. 15-foot 10. And then we will do 7-foot 11 for the other board. We will have 1.5 inch overhang on the roofing. Wow. That's fun. I want it to be right. It's getting better. one, we made 15 foot 10. So it's 2 inches shorter than 16 feet. And we want 3 inches less total. That means this one needs to be just an inch shorter than 8 foot even. I might stop filming pretty soon here, because GoPros are waterproof, but microphones are not. I got this beam up, whatever you want to call it. It's not straight right now because this side's actually squared, so it messed up the other side when I squared this side with the chain and the straps. I have these mock rafters in that are cut to 117 inches, and it's supposed to be 120 to the outside, which is 10 feet. So 117 makes plus 3 inches makes exactly what it's supposed to be on the outside. I have 3 of those, keeping it where it should be. Hopefully, I only put those on so I could square it, and hopefully it actually is somewhat square now. 32-inch spacing, so 10 rafters does the whole thing, and that's it. It's gonna be super simple and hopefully super easy for you to follow along with. This can go up. Well, this is 10 feet from this edge to the other edge of the other line, so we're gonna go 10 inches. Yeah, because it definitely won't matter if these are a tiny bit loose, it'll actually just help us put them in. I'm gonna cut them with a Sawzall because it's just gonna be faster than a jigsaw. And still more accurate than a circular saw, which is gonna cut way past. It will just, yeah, like that. So I just thought about it. I totally could have made this mathematically correct and not worried about it. Cause I just moved this line to make it correct, because apparently this is the only part of the building that's not correct right now. I know it's supposed to be 140 inches long. I know these are supposed to be 10 inches in, and I know it's a 4-degree angle on them. Cause I already knew all that, and I knew I wanted 2 inches in. There was no reason for me to put it up there and do that, because I already knew all the measurements I need to know, because I'm making it accurate. So it really didn't make any sense to do it the way I did, so don't do that. Better. And this is all treated because treated is cheaper than untreated right now. That's the only reason it's treated. It really doesn't need to be. So I'm just saving money everywhere I possibly can. There it goes. Nice. Okay, don't try this at home, kids. Definitely not nearly enough structure up here to stand on. I got all the rafters up, now I'm trying to figure out how exactly I'm supposed to square this thing. I just switched cameras because my battery died, and my other battery is apparently broken from my GoPro, so now we're going to be using this nice fancy camera. Anyway, what I was saying was, because there's nothing actually stiff, so I could pull on it, but I'm only going to be pulling on one section of it. So unless I have a million ratchet straps on it, or chains, I'm not going to be able to do it very well. So what I'm thinking is, I'm going to do one more chain, one more strap here, that's all I have, and the whole thing is curved this way. It's all that way. Pull that in. Maybe that'll be good enough. Let me get a string set up so I can know what straight actually is here. It's really windy. You probably can't hear a thing. Super, super tight. See that we're like 1.5 inches out. That's what we're dealing with. So yeah, not great. Also exactly what I expected, judging by how it looked. Just with my eyes. That's pretty tight. I think it actually did help a little bit. Yeah, it's down to like 3/4 of an inch now, just with wiggling it like that. Definitely less than an inch now. You can see the string. I'm gonna take this guy off. Let's look. It definitely moved again. Within a 1/2 inch of straight, which is not a horrible place to be. Even if we ended there, which we're definitely not going to. So after doing all my straightening, it is massively out of square. It's about 3.5 inches out of square over a rectangle that I measured, which is pretty bad. That's not really great. Of course, it only has to move whatever, 1 3/4 to make that right, so it's not as bad as it sounds, but the measurement was 3.5 inches different. It is pretty stick and straight though. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna leave it just like that. I'm gonna put in at least my bottom row of purlins, which is only 2, because it's 16 foot and 8 foot, and my top row, maybe 1 more. And that will hopefully keep me straight. And then I can just put 1 chain on it and adjust my chain, or a strap probably, and just fight against that and straighten it and hopefully, and square it, and hopefully it'll stay straight. That's the theory at least. One thing I forgot to, that's really important, is I forgot to mark the top of my rafters for where the purlin is supposed to go. That's okay though, because we're going to use a chalk line, I think, and that's going to make it really fast and actually a straight line. Okay, I got my chalk lines up there and did stuff that should definitely not be shown in a how-to video so I don't get sued. No. I will see you in the morning, and we will put the rest of these purlins on and hopefully start getting metal on. Okay, I got all the purlins up. I didn't film any of it. I'm sorry. It's I don't want to die being on the roof, which would be bad. And filming and being on the roof when it's just purlins and rafters is already pretty dangerous. So yeah, let's not do that. It looks good. It actually looks pretty straight. I got it square again. It took me absolutely forever. I didn't film any of that either, but I re-squared everything, re-straightened everything. It looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. You can look down it a little bit. I think it looks pretty good. I'm gonna get the roofing and start cutting it down because some of it's extra from the shop that we built, so it's too long, but I'm gonna cut it on 12 feet so I can buy extra and it actually fit properly. The roofing is in here, which is not the most convenient place. It's pretty heavy because it's like 14 feet long. It's not gonna be super fun. Anyway, I'm gonna start moving stuff. Remember, you should never use an angle grinder without a handle or a guard. 2 very dangerous things to do. If you're wondering why there's felt on the bottom of this, it's called drip stop. I think this manufacturer called it drip stop. There's several different companies that make it, but it's basically a felt or flannel type membrane that keeps condensation from dripping off the metal. So if you're in a building that's uninsulated, it can make condensation and it will drip on your stuff, which is not very nice, and we don't want that in our shop building. That's why it's on this extra stuff. Now we're going to square the roof, but put a square on the roof, that is. It's pretty square right now, so I'm not super worried about changing it from what it is. This is going to be fun to keep you guys up here. If you do 3 feet in the bottom, 4 feet up, it should be a 5 feet diagonal in between them. So if we double that, we can do 6, 8, 10. So it should be 6 feet in the bottom, 8 feet up here, and then it should be a 10-foot diagonal. That should be a perfect 90-degree angle if all those measurements are lined up with each other. So this one's 8 feet right here. This purlin below me, which you can't see, should be exactly 10 feet. And it's about 3/8 of an inch off. Board's a little bit bowed too. That's not helping us. Ah, I dropped my pencil. 1/2 inch away from the edge of that is actually square. So that point is what we're gonna run off of for our line. I used tape measure as a straight edge and I marked it, lined it up on the edge of my mark here where 10 feet intersects with 8 feet. So that's where it's actually square. And then I marked it over here. It's about 3/4 of an inch away from the edge of the board. So that edge is square with the bottom edge. I know that. So we're gonna line up our first piece on that one. But before we do that, I'm gonna put a screw in there, which I can do right now. If I run 3 feet off of that, going all the way down, that will be square with the rest of the roof. If I run 3 feet off the bottom purlin, I know that one's where it's supposed to be. So if I run both of those, it should be perfectly square, and I know they'll stay parallel if I mark every 3 feet all the way down. Okay, something I didn't think about when I marked that, but I should have, is I'm actually gonna have an overhang off the edge, so it's going to be about 2 inches away from that line up here. Just fine, I'll just measure 2 inches on each one individually and that'll be okay. Or I could rerun the tape. I'm not worried about it. I'll just mark it right on the bottom so I only have to measure on the top. Probably shouldn't be doing this in the middle of a windstorm. Keep going. Woo! half the roof that is mostly screwed on. I need to go get more screws, so I'm just tacking it up there on the edges. But it looks good. It actually ran about 3/4 of an inch off of square. See, it's lined up. Actually, less than that. Maybe a 1/2 inch off. It was about 3/4 of an inch of felt. About a 1/4 inch on this end. And it's lining up super even on the end. At least it was on the other side. It looks pretty good. Very happy with how it's turning out. So I'm going to do the rest of it. One thing you gotta remember with these screws, you don't want to put them down loose, and you really don't want to put them down too tight. If this screws in too tight, then your washer is going to be out there in the sun, it's going to get baked, and it's going to start deteriorating, it's not going to seal as well. If you put it on too loose, well, obviously it's not going to seal if you do that. You want it to be just till it's snugged up and you can just barely see the washer on the outside, or maybe not even, till it's just to the edge of the washer. That's when it's perfect. Absolutely anybody can do this if I'm doing this. It's getting windier and windier, and it's a really bad idea to do roofing in the wind. Remember when you walk on this, walk on the purlins, just, you know, saves time. Some of these are a little rattly because they only got a couple screws in them, but they're in there. And I learned the trick just now. So if you just put it in, of course that one goes in perfect. Yeah. Like that. You don't really want that to happen. That's just a pain. You can just tap it on the back, and they go in every time. That's pretty cool. All you gotta do is get through that very first tiny little bit and they go in. This is a very important step you don't want to miss, which is timber locks. These are 2 3/4, I think. Yeah, 2 7/8 panhead timber locks. They pull up really tight, and these ones won't snap off like deck screws will, because deck screws are not incredibly strong and sheer. So at least 1 per board per post, which is just 2 for this one. You can hear how tough that black locust is. I don't think it's going to move anyway, but it's just a little bit more secure with this on there. Thunder. Okay, another thing we're going to do that I, again, forgot about until now. We're going to cut out blocks and put them in between some of the rafters, well, 6 bays, just to keep the roof from going like this and flopping over. It's some more security, not completely necessary because I do have screws on all those bird's mouth rafter cuts, but just another thing I can do, and I have the wood because I actually bought an extra one just in case I did do this, and I am going to do it. My final outro. This building took me 4 days to build. My dad did help me put in 2 posts. Besides that, it was just me digging the holes, laying it out, plumbing everything, squaring everything, and putting all the, you know, the rafters and the purlins and, you know, everything you just saw in the video was just one person over 4 days, which is not bad for a 12 by 24 pole barn, I don't feel like. So if I did it, it's really easy and you can do it. This really is super simple. This is the simplest way you can build a building, pretty much period. I really like the look of the rustic logs, the posts, which are also going to last way longer than treated wood, even in ground contact. I hope this was helpful to you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.